What an absolutely amazing game. Wow. That game is worthy of being a semi-final. Oh my goodness. So full disclaimer, I am a Bulls fan. I'm an absolutely buzzing Bulls fan. So this review might not be 100% unbiased, although I'll really try. So let's get into it. I think let's start with my preview. If you watch my preview for this game, Leinster has a huge weakness that the Bulls can exploit. That's effectively how the game went down. That was one of the key areas. If you don't know, Leinster's defensive system is very aggressive, and that aggression can leave a lot of space. So it can either lead to them being disconnected, or it can leave a lot of space in the backfield. I thought that Leinster's connections in their defense was actually quite solid. I don't think there was a line break by the Bulls, although I could be wrong, but there weren't many. So their connections were strong. It's just that their backfield was very, very weak. And we saw that from basically minute one. The Bulls really tried to exploit their backfield with kicks a lot. They did this in two ways. They put up a lot of crossfield bombs, so high kicks with a lot of hang time. This was not as effective. What was most effective were the crossfield kicks that didn't have a lot of hang time. They were low, they were quick, and Leinster's backfield just couldn't compensate, and it oftentimes led to the Bulls regaining possession with a lot of attacking momentum. This led to the Bulls being quite territorially dominant early on, although Leinster did manage to claw themselves back into the game. And that's really just because their kickers are world class. I mean, James Slow, his boot is absolutely amazing. Although if we look at Leinster's territorial stats, it's not what we're used to seeing from them. The Bulls had 36% territory within Leinster's 22. Most of the time, that is the kind of territorial dominance that Leinster will have over other teams. So the Bulls did very well in that area. And one of the big parts of them doing so well was Willie le Roux. I said in my preview that he was going to be absolutely key for this team. Specifically his kicking game, that needed to be absolutely on point, and it was absolutely on point. That is one of the best kicking performances I've ever seen him put in. Not just in terms of, his shorter range kicks, but his longer range kicks were fantastic. And this brings me to another point that I want to talk about, which is the Bulls decided to play from quite a bit deeper than what we are used to seeing from them. Usually they'll try to take the ball up really flat with a lot of speed, but they position themselves a lot deeper, and that gave them a lot of room for decision making. And Willie le Roux absolutely exploited this beautifully. It was so good to watch. He, not just the 50-22, that was brilliant. I think that was Willie le Roux. But just whenever he kicked the ball, it always found grass. It was very rare that he kicked the ball directly into Leinster's hands. And it just, that territorial battle, that tactical battle was so interesting to watch all throughout the night. Because we don't see this generally from Leinster. Usually when they initiate the kicking battle, they pretty much always come out on top. This time, the Bulls were well prepared. Just to illustrate how important this kicking approach was for both teams, the game had 80 total kicks from hand. That is a very large number, and the Bulls probably came out on top there. One less than stellar aspect to the Bulls tonight was their discipline. Whereas Leinster's discipline was actually fairly good, Leinster only conceded 4 penalties and the Bulls conceded 8 penalties in total. And really some stupid ones. I mean, that first one from Marco van Staden, that was absolutely terrible. It cost them the try, and it really allowed Leinster to take back momentum during the game. So while they did not concede a ton of penalties, it is something that they're going to have to work on, because those stupid mistakes, I mean, you can't do that against, I don't know the result of the other game yet, but I'm going to assume that Munster is going to win that one. You can't do that against Munster. Probably the main aspect that won the Bulls the game was their defense. I've watched every single Bulls game this season. I've never seen them defend that well. I don't think I've ever seen them defend that well for the past 3 or 4 years. It's an aspect that Jake has said he really wants to work on, is the defense. Because when he first took over, the Bulls were just all out, balls to the wall attack. And there were massive scores for them. They won most of the time, but there were also massive scores for their opponents. It's been an area that the Bulls have really focused on for the past 2 or so seasons. And I feel like that really culminated into this game. That was an incredible defensive performance. The Bulls had to make 152 tackles and had an 87% tackle success rate. That is pretty good, but I think it just doesn't tell you, you look at that period of play where Leinster, I think they had about 20 phases of constant attack. That was brutal to watch. The Bulls very, very nearly cracked. But they managed to hold it together, turn the ball over, and then they managed to kick the ball downfield and push Leinster back all the way down to their own goal line. What was particularly impressive for me was the fact that both teams had a lot of post-contact meters. So the Bulls had to defend, but they had to defend a lot on the back foot with the momentum against them. So their scramble defense was absolutely on point on the night. Another interesting aspect was that the Bulls' restarts were on point on the night. In their game against Benetton, the Bulls were atrocious at the restarts, and this time they had a 100% success rate, so massive improvement there. For Leinster, I think there are some positives that they can take away from this game. I know it's a playoff game, so it's not going to make you excited or anything, but like I said, I think their continuity was really good during the match, particularly on attack when they put so many phases together. Another thing is that they really managed to negate the Bulls' crossfield bombs, which is where the Bulls have been really good this season. And they did this by having their blockers run accurate support lines in front of their catchers so that the Bulls couldn't compete as much in the air. Overall, though, I think the Bulls were just on song on the night, and Leinster, I don't want to say that they were bad, because they weren't bad. They didn't play badly, but they needed to take it up a gear. They needed to also play a really good game, and that just didn't happen. I think that Leinster does have the better squad, so if Leinster did play their best game, they probably would have won, even if the Bulls played their best game. So I've got a question. Is this time for Leo Cullen to go? I asked this after the Toulouse game for Leinster. So the failures are starting to mount a little bit considering the squad that Leinster has. I'd love to hear your opinion though. Is that an overreaction, or, what do you think? I absolutely cannot wait to see what happens in the rest of the competition. Gonna go watch the other semi-final now. So cheers guys. Enjoy.